I was elected to the board 1987 and elected chairman in 1993. One of the first things that I can recall is we brought some wholesalers on board. And when I went on the board, there were no wholesalers. There was sort of that clash of cultures, and I never felt that way, and there was a lot of us that didn't. That really we needed them as much as they needed us, and it was better to work together. I'm glad that members of the board at that time decided that that was the right thing to do. And that's what I think one of the first big accomplishments of the board. Another thing that I think was pretty important with the board was impressing on the membership the need to become involved politically. There was no voice for the independent operator. Myself, I had never been to Harrisburg to talk to anybody. I'd never been to Washington, D.C. to talk to anybody. It was an eye-opener for me, and I think for a lot of independents who had never done that. We found out that we were actually welcomed in legislators' offices, and they wanted to hear from us. And I think most of us at that time felt the only people that had a voice was the large chains. And when you talk to the large chains, they were actually glad that the independents were getting involved because they felt that was a necessary part of the equation too. So that was something that worked out well. There were a lot of issues, and a lot of them are still there today, but one of the things that I was probably involved in the most was the coupon chargeback issue. That's where I learned that you can disagree on an issue 100%, but you can be agreeable when you discuss it. With a solid background and a solid support from PFMA, and sitting down with members of the manufacturing community, and again, even the wholesalers, we actually ironed out an agreement, which I guess you could say neither one of us was entirely satisfied, which means it probably was a pretty good deal. And I think I was satisfied the way it came out, so I like to take some pride in that, but I didn't do it alone. Had a lot of help in the background. As important as it was back then, I think it's more important today with all the legislation that keeps coming at you. Somebody has to keep track of that. PFMA's got the expertise in Harrisburg to handle a lot of issues. You shouldn't expect them to handle them all on your own. You have to be willing to give a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to help them. I think we've always had good leadership, from Al Vicks, who started, to Dave McCorkle, who I worked with for all the years that I was on the board and remained good friends with, and now Alex doing a bang-up job. I think the future's bright. I think the industry future is bright, but you just have to be aware of what's going on and stay on top of things.
I think the message and the word is out there that we're the voice of the food and beverage industry in Pennsylvania. We're well positioned, and we're fortunate to have a strong group of members that advocate for us as strongly as we advocate for them.
I think it's absolutely necessary to join PFMA. When I think about running my business without being a part of an association that represents me so well and keeps us focused on what we need to do and takes care of some of those advocacy pieces for me, I think it's absolutely imperative. After joining PFMA, I joined the board, and I got to sit at the table with a bunch of folks that I really admire and look up to in the industry. I went to secretary and then treasurer and vice chair, and I will be the chairman as of this event.
The board is really the experts. It's the composition of the membership. We go through a process to make sure everyone's represented, and as such, the information they provide really is invaluable, helps direct the organization, but it also gives us the information to be able to advocate effectively for them. We only succeed as a group. The food industry is very interconnected, interdependent, because everyone goes there. So we're all facing the same issues, and that's become even more apparent over the years as the channels have sort of bled into one another.
I think camaraderie is really important. So, I really joined PFMA to make sure that I was meeting other folks that I could learn from, network with, and really just kind of commiserate with at times when it's necessary.
When I was still involved with the industry, you always felt that you could call. If you had an issue and you knew somebody that you felt comfortable talking with, you could call them. I received calls, people asking questions, something that they knew we had already gone through. And it was just the fact that it was just camaraderie. We were competitors, but we were all willing to help each other. I don't know if you find that in a lot of industries, but you do find that in the food industry.
I'm most proud of the work that our members do and to be able to work for such a great group of people because they're not only great business people, they're very successful business people, but they're even better people. And that's what really makes me the most proud is the work they do in the community and to make Pennsylvania better. That's really what it's all about.
I just enjoy being around food people. I miss the business, I miss the people. Food industry is good to me, and I hope that in some way I gave back to them something of value. And that's basically the way I look at it.